Okay. Hello, everyone, guys. Today we are with our honored guest speaker, Zafar Kimboyev, who graduated and who studied math at University of Waterloo and currently working as a software engineer at Amazon. Um, Zafaraka, thank you so much for your dedication. We know that it's very early in Canada. It's 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. in Canada. We are joining from different part of the world. I am in China, which is like 11:30 p.m. on my end. Students are joining from Uzbekistan, which is 8:30 p.m. And Zafaraka joining from like Canada, it's 7:30 a.m. This is incredible like opportunity for all of us to learn from Zafaraka and to hear about his journey. Thank you so much, Zafaraka.
No, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's an honor to be here and allowing me to share my experience. So I'm excited to do that.
Okay, let's get started then.
Yeah. All right. So I have a few slides I just put together, just like images and stuff mainly. So I'll just walk through them and I wanted to be more conversational, so you can just stop me anytime, ask me questions. Let's just, have a discussion. Um, yeah, before we get started, maybe like people in the chat can share where they are from, what do they do, just a quick icebreaker. Uh, so feel free to like let me know like where you're joining from. Uh, if no one's shy. All right, all right. We have Uzbekistan, China, Vancouver, the three countries mentioned. And as you mentioned, it's a whole different time zone, which is exciting because it's like 7 a.m. here and like 11 p.m. is almost the next day. So
Yeah, yeah,
maybe until we finish this meeting is going to be the next day.
yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right, let's get started. So I guess I wanted to like start my journey right after graduation or during graduation. So like grade 12, last like senior year of high school, and then like move on to like university life and then full-time work and whatever. So uh, grade 12 or end of grade 11, I always wanted to do something more, go somewhere abroad, study in one of the top universities in the world. But I had no idea how universities work, like nothing. I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have much. The only mentor I had was YouTube. So I was just like looking at YouTube's how to apply to universities, this and that, what universities apply to, and which are the best countries. So in generally, like applying to universities, um, I thought you could just apply, click apply and that's it. But then I learned you have to do the IELTS, you have to do the SATs, you have to do like Common App for the USA. Then in Canada, you have to do something else. So it's a whole different process. And I thought you could just apply and get in, but then I learned the different rankings, the different tiers. Like some universities have like 1-2% acceptance rates. And knowing this in grade 12 is such a like a wake-up call because it's a little too late to like start preparing grade 12. It's still doable, but a little too late. And yeah, so I had all this information. These information are generally true for any countries. So like either the US, Canada, Europe, or like Middle East. I think the same goes for like Eastern countries like China, Hong Kong, and etc. And yeah, then I started applying. So initially, I just learned a lot from YouTube. I wished I had like certain mentors or people who can speak to, but unfortunately, did not. And yeah, I started choosing like let's say like the continents I wanted to go to. So initially I considered the whole world, kind of tried to apply to all of them, but then I was like, hey, well, where do I see my future? And so I always wanted to work in like bigger companies, um, do bigger stuff and be involved in like emerging economies. And if you think about it, like USA is always like the a country which is like the fastest developing. They have biggest economies, like economies of certain states are bigger than like some countries, for example, right? So I was like, hey, I want to go to the US. So I applied to a lot of universities in the US. Before that, of course, I did the ACTs, the IELTS, filled out the common applications. And then I was like, hey, like, why don't I consider Canada as well? Then I started applying to Canada as well. So these are like some of the universities I applied to. There are so many. I think I applied to more than 35 universities. Just these are some of the ones I remember, like University of Pittsburgh, Florida Institute of Technology. Just yeah, they don't have bigger names because like the bigger names like Harvard, MIT, they required way too much, and I did not really have the time to like fill out the essays, like five, five different essays. Each are like pretty long. I just did not have time because I wanted to apply early. I think they have like the early application, early decision stuff, something like that. And I wanted to apply early, so I increased my chances. So I did not have the time. I just applied to the ones which I believed I could like kind of make it. And these are like some of the one I applied to and gotten. I'll forever remember Florida Institute of Technology. It's like a university in Florida where I got my first ever acceptance. Uh, and it was like a kind of life-changing moment of getting into university because I had this was like 2 months after starting my last year. So starting like the last year of high school, just 2 months in, I applied and I got in. And then yeah, in Canada, I applied to the top universities like Toronto, Western, etc. So one thing I want to say is that initially I did have no idea what I wanted to do. Like in terms of like major or career, I had no idea. Sometimes I also wanted to be an actor. I tried like considering like acting schools or like stuff like that. But then I was like, hey, I want to do business. So most of the programs I applied here were like BBA programs, business programs. But like during high school, I always knew I was kind of technical. I always like 11, like grade 10, 11, I always like created websites, did some automation, no coding, nothing, but just some like even using like Excel or Sheets. I tried to do something like technical, right? So I always knew I had the technical side of me. So I wanted to do something technical and business. So yeah, so most of these universities applied to either like business information systems programs or BBA programs. And yeah, so I considered all of this. And then like 5, 6, 7, 8 months later, it's like May. It's around May when you start getting the decisions. I got a lot of like acceptances, which I was happy. But then it was like time to filter, right? I have like what 30, 32, 35 acceptances. And then I had like some of them had like a little bit of scholarship, some of them had partial scholarship, like 50%, and there were a few with 100% scholarship, mainly in the US. Then I got into like all of these universities in Canada as well. So these are like the top universities in Canada, like top 5, top 10, but also they are highly ranked in the world as well, like the QS rankings. So most of them were BBA programs or business programs. However, Waterloo here was a faculty of mathematics. So talk about the faculty more, but basically it's like the only faculty of mathematics in North America, and it has a lot of majors under it. So one of the majors I was really interested was information technology management, and I applied to that one. That was not like BBA, the traditional BBA. It was like just inform IT related. You can think of it as IT, but it involved a lot of math as well. So I was like, hey, that seems interesting, and that's the program I applied to. And yeah, then I had to like choose between like, hey, US or Canada, right? So uh, I mainly considered basically post graduation opportunities. Like, let's say I graduated, what I'm gonna do next. If I recall correctly, like in the US, you get like 90 days or a year or so for, I'm not pretty sure, but like a little time for you to like find a job and gain some experience. On the other hand, in Canada, you could like after you graduate, you would get 3 years off work permit where you can work for any company, find a job, and do whatever you want. And I was like, hey, that's a better opportunity for you to like, get on, like stand up in your career, and you have a lot of time to do so. And yeah, so then I was like, hey, from these universities, which one am I going to choose? Of course, the price mattered. Some of them were really expensive. Some of them were like a little bit more affordable. Some of them had scholarships. So considering the price, considering postgraduate opportunities, it mainly came down to like UBC and Waterloo. So now I'm living in Vancouver. UBC is pretty close, but Waterloo is on the east coast, but UBC on the west coast. It so UBC was a BBA program. UBC has the, if I recall correctly, the best BBA program in Canada. And it's really expensive, but it's also like the best experience you can get. And on the other hand, it was Waterloo, as I mentioned, the Faculty of Math doing IT, right? Yeah, but then so both of them were kind of similar in weighing the things. I was like, okay, there's has to be like a decision maker, and there was something called co-op, which I will talk about a little later. So because of mainly co-op, I chose University of Waterloo. I'll talk about that later. Any questions up until now? Nope. We can continue. So yeah, so I joined the Faculty of Mathematics at the University of Waterloo. Waterloo has like, so University of Waterloo is a university located in the city of Waterloo and the province of Ontario. It's like 1.5 hour, 2 hour drive from Toronto. Toronto is like a very popular city. Most people think it's the capital, but the capital of Canada is Ottawa. So it's 1.5, 2 hours drive from Toronto. It's kind of a new city. It has a lot of history, but it's kind of new. And it's very well known for their innovation and tech scene, just the city itself. And they had a lot of startups, a lot of founders starting like in the 50s and the 60s. And then, hence, this university became a more engineering, computer science, and tech-oriented university. So we actually don't really have a business program here, like a business BBA, a traditional sense. We have like uh, some amount of business courses, but we don't really have a business like a BBA program, BBA degree. And we have like six different faculties, including mathematics, engineering, which is one of the biggest engineering faculties in North America, one of the top as well. Then we have like environment, science, and I think arts. So arts would be all the like economics, whatever, right? So then I chose mathematics. So as you can see, like under the faculty of mathematics, there are like, I can't even count, like 16 plus like 20, 20, 24, 25 different majors, right? So usually if you apply to different universities, uh, mathematics is a major where it's either like mathematics major or computer science or data science or statistics. These are the most popular ones, right? But here we have a whole faculty, and under the faculty, we have like 16 different majors. So this was like a lot to choose from, and you can like go any direction you want, right? Depending. So as you can see here, there's like on the left side of the bottom, you can see like information technology management. That's what I wanted to do, which I thought I wanted to do, and I wanted to pursue that. So basically what you do is once you apply to the Faculty of Mathematics, in your second or third year, you can choose any of the majors in here out of the 16. Or if you're more sure, you can apply to these math bus, mathematics and business and computer science. These are also majors, but to get into them, you have to apply directly to them. So when you're applying to the university, you say, hey, I want to apply to like math business program or computer science program. But if you're applying to the ones at the top, you just apply to University of you apply to honors mathematics, and later you can choose your major. Uh, any questions about mathematics at Waterloo? All right, I guess it's very clear what I'm saying. We can move on. So, what is Waterloo, right? Like, I'm pretty sure it's not the most popular university or faculty in the world. It is super, super popular in North America, like USA and Canada, particularly in San Francisco. If you go to like the Bay Area and you say Waterloo, it's very popular. They have their name. And I'll tell you later, it comes from co-op again, the reason why I chose this university. But these are some pictures which kind of give you a taste of what Waterloo is. Um, as you can see, like there's something called the Waterloo effect, which is a popular thing which became popular all over Instagram like 1 or 2 years ago. This guy who just started university, then him 3 4 years later. There are many of these images people make it. So now every time when people are graduating, they upload the before and after of Waterloo, and Waterloo effect became the word, and you can like look up the definition up there. So yeah, it's known for it being really hard to study because they study nonstop. And this is mainly mathematics and engineering faculties. Others might be a little easier, but yeah, people who are studying barely work. They don't have time to work, like part-time work, earning money. Uh, I'm specifically an undergraduate, and graduate it's a little different, but yeah, you barely have time, and it's a lot like really hard. And then in the middle here, you can see this young guy here. He's if you are into trading or anything, this is like Vitalik Buterin. He's the founder of the Ethereum coin. So he actually went to University of Waterloo for 1 year, and then he dropped out and he started Ethereum. So he's not like an alumni, but he's like pretty popular in Waterloo because he's one of the founders of the biggest cryptocurrencies in the world. Uh, Maybe we can see the biggest one because we don't know who founded Bitcoin, but the biggest founder that we know of a cryptocurrency is him. And on the left here, you can see like BlackBerry. So BlackBerry, it was a very popular phone up until the 2014, 2015. They had a lot of adoption, especially in enterprise and business people. And it was founded, like the first, its offices were founded in the city of Waterloo, and the founder graduated from the University of Waterloo. Um, his name was Mike Lazaridis. We have some buildings with his name, so he's very popular. And BlackBerry offices are still the headquarters are in Waterloo. And yeah, these are like so this is like a post where people talk about the Waterloo Co-op. If you go to LinkedIn and like search the keyword Waterloo Co-op, it's again very popular. I'll talk about what it is later. And one thing, as I mentioned, is innovation and like startup. I think this was 2025 rankings where Waterloo, with the amount of startups and the founders which came from university, is like among the highest. As you can see, it's in the same like it's close to like Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, MIT. It's most of them are like Ivy League top 20 universities in the US, and then there's like Waterloo in there, which is an outlier, but this shows how like they really focus on that. And yeah, on the left here, this little old guy, he's also one of the graduates of University of Waterloo. If you know the story of Google, uh, when Larry Page and Sergey Brin were starting up, they needed a little bit of funding. Then they had a professor who gave them $100,000, their first ever Google investment. And it was this guy. He's currently a professor at Stanford. But if you look at his net worth, like $20 billion, it's funny how he can be like one of the richest people in the world and still teach courses. So yeah, he also graduated from the University of Waterloo, and we have so the University of Waterloo computer science buildings are named after him. Any questions about Waterloo? I think there was a question about studying math at Waterloo. Let me see if okay, I'm talking about COP next, but especially math. So as I said, there are like 16 different majors under the honors mathematics program. So honor mathematics program, there's 16 majors underneath. So usually you just start like normal. Every one of these 26 different majors have almost the same first year courses. So 2 semesters in the first year are almost the same, like 90%. But for electives, like the ones in like business side, take business courses, the ones which I mentioned. Uh, but the mathematics and the core courses are all the same. And as you progress towards your years, like second, third year, your core courses will kind of change. So if you're in statistics, you'll take more statistics courses. If you're in data science, you will take more computer science courses. If you're in pure math, you will take pure math courses. So there are different courses for each major, so which will usually change around end of second year or third year, and after that, like fourth year and all. So that's how they will change. uh, and all of them are very different. Like mathematics faculty is one of the biggest in terms of students as well. So every semester, not every, so we don't have one graduation year. We don't all graduate in summer. We actually have three graduation ceremonies. So each graduation ceremony has around like 2,000, 3,000 people from mathematics, which is quite a lot. And we have that three times a year. So like a lot of students. Another popular word for University of Waterloo is engineer factory. So they're not very known for their like research or like studying theoretical in a sense, but it's known to like take universities, make them engineers, and just keep on popping them out, right? Like delivering engineers to the world. So that's what like Waterloo is generally known for. Um, any particular questions about math? Anything? All right. So I talk about co-op. So it's a very popular thing. It's why I chose the University of Waterloo. It's what University of Waterloo is known for. Yesterday, I asked ChatGPT to what is the University of Waterloo most known for in a single word, and it wrote co-op here, which is funny, but it's true. So what is co-op? So co-op is, if you've heard of internships, it's basically a form of an internship, um, where so internship is where you're studying at the university, you're a student, then you can go to a company and work for them for usually 4 months, but it can be anywhere between 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, and 16 months, right? And why I'm saying these dates are because co-ops are usually more structured and they fit well into the university timeline, right? So most universities start in September, then end in like April, May, and that's certain like 8, 9 months. And then you have the summer off, right? So 4 months. So they try to fit co-op into that time. That's usually how internships or co-ops work in other universities. But a lot of universities are also developing their co-op system. But in Waterloo, it's a little different. So on the left side here, you can see an example of how the co-op schedule works, right? So most programs in Waterloo are not 4 years; they are 4.5 years, or four and two thirds. So it's much more than 4 years. And as you can see, there's no off. There's no summer holidays. You can take time for yourself. Usually, students after first year they take time off or do internships, but not at Waterloo. In Waterloo, you only study or work. So this is like, as you can see, there's like first year fall. Fall is like usually where universities start. Then there's winter, spring, and it just keeps on going. As you can see, like how it usually is you study for 1 semester. It's like everything's new. You're learning a lot of things. You're learning university life. But then Waterloo is like, hey, you're going to start working in 4 months. Prepare for it. So right when you get into universities, when you're learning how universities work, you're also learning how to apply for jobs, which for me was very confusing because I thought I'd be just learning stuff for at least 1 or 2 years. But after a semester, they're like, hey, you have to start doing your resumes and applying to jobs. I would say it's the almost the same procedure as what you do when you are right on the verge of graduating. So when you're fourth year at university, how you prepare, it's almost the same thing. But we do it like around 6 times within this 4 or 5 years. Right when we get into studying, we prepare for work. And when we are working, we usually don't really care about studies because you don't really have to prepare for it. So it's kind of like a vacation, but then you go back to studies, you prepare to work. And yeah, so this is how the co-op system works. You study, work, study, work, study, work for the next 4 or 5 years. Uh, and I think I'll mention like why I think it's important. So people who, uh, so not all people are really into academia. When I say academia, it's like learning, research, graduate school, and whatever, right? Some people really want to quickly get done with school and start working, build new things, and whatever. So this is like an amazing opportunity for people who can right away start working. So whatever they passion they might have, they can like right away do it. Or people who have no idea what they want to do, like me, for example. So first semester when I joined, I'm like, I'm gonna do IT stuff. But then I started working. So on the right side here is like my co-op experience. I just copied from LinkedIn. So I was just like a technology specialist, basically like what people in IT usually do. It was my first internship. I just applied, got in, um, and started working. One thing I forgot to mention is co-op usually, almost always, is always paid at least minimum wage, like which is like 19, no, sorry, $18 Canadian per hour if you're working in Canada, but there's no upper limit. I had friends who used to make $20, $30, $50, and even up to $200 per hour, which is more than like, and I'm $200 in like USD. So $200 per hour is a lot. Especially imagine you're a university student, you can cover a lot of things. You can cover your tuition fees, you can even start investing and even have a family with that amount of money, right? So there are companies in different tiers. And yeah, so the main thing, once most of things, what people do when they're coming to Waterloo is they know this thing and they strive and grind and hustle to getting those top jobs because they pay really well, right? Being a student with like a little bit of work experience and getting 100 $200 per hour is like a dream to many. And yeah, it's possible. It's of course like it's like the top 1% of the 1%, but it's possible. But usually it's like jobs are around 20 to $30 per hour in Canada. And a lot of students also go to the US. So if you're a student and if you're going to internship, even if you're an international student like myself, there's like special visas which allow you to go and work in the US, which a lot of people do because they are better companies, they're bigger companies, and they pay more. So yeah, for me, I just, as I said, I did this first co-op term or internship where it was just like, IT stuff, nothing like interesting. Then I started like, then I came back to school. I started kind of take some courses which are more like data related or computer science related. Of course, as a math student, I did take basic computer science courses, but then I started to like take more of them because you can do so if you choose to do so. But I always wanted to like do something with data, and my dream was like, okay, do data science, right? So data science was also like uh, the most popular major in 2000, 2020s and 2018, around that area. It was like everyone wanted to do that, and so I also wanted to do that because it involved mathematics, computer science, business. The business side of me was also excited a little bit, and I was like, hey, this is for me. But I did not get a data science internship until like my third time. So second time I did information security, which is like cybersecurity. um, there were a lot of options, but I took it because so TD is like one of the popular banks in Canada and they have a big name. So sometimes you want to like maybe have a name in your resume, but not necessarily the role. In retrospect, I think it helped me because I had the TD experience, I got the data science job because I already had the experience with this company, which was nice. and then I did data science, and then I did another one in data science for a nonprofit organization. It's based in New York. And then towards the end, my last two internships, so 2 4 months, I did it at a startup called Grace, where I was like machine learning data engineer. It was a small team where we did a lot of everything. So yeah, this was my co-op experience, uh, pretty much. So any questions about co-op? It's like the biggest thing in Waterloo. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me right now.
Zafarka, just a quick question.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the the work visa during your education. Will the university support it for your like work visa to enter the United States of America?
Yeah, so when you get into University of Waterloo and you're in the co-op, so there are co-op programs and there are non-co-op programs. So non-co-op programs is like every other university. You only study in spring and winter, and then summer's off, right? But there's the co-op program, which most of the programs are co-op programs, where when you get into Canada, they will give you a study permit and they will give you a work permit. So it's a student work permit. And with this work permit, you can, during your co-op semester, you can work anywhere in Canada to any employer. That's not restricted. So talking about the US visa, right? So so how the process work is like, so one thing I forgot to mention is in co-op, we have, so like, if you know, like LinkedIn or Indeed or like HROs, we have a very similar thing in Waterloo. It's like internal system, which it's very similar to that. And all we get is like access to that system where we can apply to jobs. And why it's powerful in a sense is some employers or some companies choose specifically to hire from Waterloo. So they don't post their job opportunities in public places like LinkedIn, but they only post in Waterloo. So we get like some things which do not exist to the public. And that's because they have a strong connection with those companies, with employers, and employers also tend to trust and find Waterloo graduates more credible because they know they started working um, right when they started their education. So we have the system, right? In the system, you can apply to jobs in Canada mainly. So 85 to 90% of the jobs are in Canada. Then maybe another 8 9% are in the US. And then there's like 2 3% which are like in Africa or China or like Europe. So those exist as well. I'm not too familiar with non-North American countries, but so specifically coming back to the US, if the company, so the visa stuff depends on the company which hired you. The university won't do anything about it. They won't really support you anything because visa is a more federal government thing, not a university level thing. So it mainly depends on the government or the immigration office. So when you're getting hired from a US company, most companies won't hire international students, but the ones who will hire, of course, they post it on Waterloo, right? They know people who are coming from Waterloo are crossing the border, and they offer something called J1 visa or something like that. Uh, it's very similar to work and travel, how some universities have in Uzbekistan. It's a very similar type of visa where
Exchange
the
visa.
Hmm?
Exchange visa.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, exchange, or I think it's called J1. The type of visa is
Yeah.
J1, but I don't know what type of visa it is. So the company or the employer which hired you will sponsor you. So sponsoring is the word. They will sponsor you for that visa. So they will pay for the visa. They will book you appointments, and they will do the processing, whatever. So if the company, which hopefully is very big, they have enough resources to support that, and they want the talent, right? So they will do everything for you. All you have to do is just wait and go. Of course, this does not guarantee that you will 100% get the visa. They will try their best, but I have friends who got amazing companies in the US, but something happened with the visa. They couldn't go. They either chose a different job or chose the same company in Canada. So most of the time it works. It really depends on the passport you have or the citizenship. With Uzbekistan, it's a little hard, but it's possible. I know a lot of people who did it. Yeah, pretty much. Does that answer the question? Any other questions regarding co-op internships? All right. So let me talk about a little math of mathematics or statistics. So as I
Mhm.
said, I wanted to do business. From this map, I knew little bit on the right side. I knew the elementary level. I did pretty well in mathematics in school. I really liked it. It was kind of satisfying to me to find answers and all. It kind of built my personality. But then once I came to Waterloo, the mathematics I knew and the mathematics was almost a whole different thing. Uh, I never did anything which I did in school. When I came to Waterloo, everything's a little different because they go right into mathematics, like a lot of theory, a lot of proofs. Proofs are a certain thing you do in mathematics, which are very important. They are how ideas or things in mathematics are founded. So that's the first thing they teach you when you come to mathematics, because without proofs, you can't really do mathematics. And this was a little different to me because I was, in school they teach you arithmetics or algebra where you have a formula, you take your numbers, you apply the formula, voila, you got an answer, right? Or you have a goal like that. The answer is set. There's only one answer. But when you're doing proofs, it's a different thing because you get the problem and you have to prove why uh, the solution you're showing is true, right? And you have to write pages of things to prove why a certain thing is a certain way. And that page is not only words, it's mainly words, but also a lot of mathematical notation. A lot, maybe 90% of even the words you write are something called mathematical logic. So it's a lot of logic, basically, how one step takes you to another step. So that was like the most challenging thing. But once you get that done, things, this is like important in every field of mathematics, but without this, you can't really do well. So yeah, first semester of mathematics, it was just learning proving stuff. So we were applying proofs to different areas like statistics, geometry, pure math, and stuff like that. And it's one thing I'll say is like the math faculty is very diverse. As I said, because they have a lot of programs, they have people from like all different backgrounds coming to the math faculty. Me, that time I came from like a business idea background. Some people come from like a programming background where they started coding when they were like 6, 7 years old, which is pretty impressive. And I would say like I've met one of the most smartest people I've ever met in my life at the University of Waterloo. So the amount of knowledge there is, the diversity in the people you meet are probably could be one of the reasons why you could like choose top universities. And that's what I learned. Like going to a top university is not only about studying, it's about meeting people, meeting different people, meeting people who come from different backgrounds. For example, someone might come, they wanted to do economics, and someone wanted to do business, someone wanted to do like programming. But when they are in math, doing a certain, as I said, they all do the same courses in first year, and all of them are solving a problem in their own way. So some of them take a longer path, some of them take a shorter path, and they all have like certain reasons on why they choose their way. And knowing more really helps gain different perspectives. So knowing people's perspective is something I learned. Like for example, there could be a question where I will take maybe 4 or 5 hours to solve. Um, like in Uzbek, they call it masala and yechish. So it takes like 4 or 5 hours. But my roommates, for example, could just look at it for like a minute, then just quickly spit out the answer, right? So it's a very diverse amount of mindset, right? And they all have their pros and weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons, whatever. Um, and that's good to know because let's say you meet someone who's like really good at mathematics or really good at programming, and they made this amazing product, right? But they don't know how to sell it, or they don't know how to like talk about it, they don't know how to present it. You can like jump in and like complement them into how you guys can be a team. So that allows you to, when you find pros and cons, like how uh puzzles or Legos, like where you kind of fit together in a sense, where your pros and their cons fit together, and you can do amazing things. So that's one of the reasons why I would really encourage everyone to like apply to top universities, because you get diverse backgrounds, and diverse in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, and so on. And of course, because it's like top universities, you get people from all over the world. So you can get people from, like, of course, mainly China and India, Pakistan, a lot from Europe, or even like a lot from like Latin America or South America, right? So, learning different cultures, learning different ideas is very important. So coming back to math, math is huge. On the right here, you can see like the math iceberg, where most people are familiar with the top two two blocks at the top, where you learn like prime numbers, a little bit of probability, pyramids, shapes, maybe like the quadratic formula, Pythagorean theorem in the first two blocks, usually towards like 11th, 12th, or in Uzbekistan, 10th, 11th grade. And then once you come to like university, it's different. It's like you can see like at the fourth block here, there's ideas of like groups, vector spaces, fields, knots, graphs, matrices. Uh, it just gets, like it just gets like ideas, because these are some things which you cannot draw out or show or present or have a video about it. These are some things which are mainly happens in the mind. But the coolest thing is these are just abstract ideas, but you can work with them, and you can like actually solve questions, solve problems, and do a lot of like cool stuff with it. So, for example, like how AIs work, so AIs use something called neural networks, how those work. Those work using like matrices and vectors. Or if you use like a certain Yandex Maps or Google Maps, how does choosing a certain location find the path fast, because it takes like a second or 2 seconds at most. So how those work? These are some things which mathematicians work on to find the best solutions. And then there's the computer scientists or programmers who take that theory and apply it to the real world, basically. So yeah, mathematics is a huge thing. As you can see, there's like a meme I put at the top. That's basically statistics. So I majored in statistics mainly. So I dropped IT after the first semester. I went to statistics because I wanted to do more data science. And statistics, studied that for like around 4 years. It's one of the newest fields of mathematics, because it was developed around 1900s, so around 120, 130, 150 years ago. But other math were like, very old. Statistics is interesting because the current AI we call these days is, if you look deep, if you look under the hood, it is statistics. So statistics itself is not fun at all. But if you put this nice frame on top of it, give it a nice word like machine learning, it might look interesting. But if you put like two letters like AI, it's like the current thing right now, right? So everyone's like, hey, like this is so cool. Uh, but under the hood, it's just math. It all comes down to like adding different numbers. So when you talk in ChatGPT, if you look what's happening, actually just taking different numbers, adding them together, multiplying them together. It's everything you do in like, your high school, even like grade 6 or grade 7. It's the same things you do, but you just have to go very deep inside of it. Yeah, this is more about mathematics and statistics. Any questions? So um, towards the end, post close to graduation, and also a little bit on like every semester when you're applying for internships. I'll talk a little bit about that. So as I said, I started applying to jobs right after first semester. At that time, I had a resume. It had my university, and it had some skills, and it had some just like almost nothing. And that's really hard when you're competing with people who are like in their third, fourth year, who already come from like, let's say, Google or Apple or whatever, right? So your resume will probably like get passed down in a second. So you try to like put a lot of effort into like making a resume. So this is something I learned throughout internship. Of course, first, second, even third tries were not the best. Every term, I used to apply to 500 to 1,000 jobs within 3 4 months, which is like a lot because I used to just apply everywhere. And initially, I applied everywhere because I did not know what I wanted to do. So I applied to software engineering jobs, front end, back end, math, finance, economic, accounting, anything you name it. I applied to it just to get something and get a work experience I can put in my resume. That's why my first two internships were kind of random because I was just getting to know stuff. But then once in my like fifth or sixth internship, after 4 or 5 internships in my fifth or sixth internship rounds, I used to apply to like 50, 60. So it got cut down by 10 times, right? So that's because I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I applied to more data science, machine learning, software engineering type of roles. That's why they were kind of less, and I kind of knew what companies I wanted to apply to. So there were like some companies which I knew I had a chance, and some companies which like reach the same way people choose universities. That's similar to how you choose like companies. Like there's like Target, Reach, and stuff like that. So it's very similar. So yeah, just find postings online, apply. What really helped me, of course, was the co-op system portal we have in Waterloo. I got almost all of my jobs from there. However, some people do not find jobs there. They find it through networking or just people they know or just external sources like LinkedIn. So it's different for everyone, but most people, of course, find it through the portal. So job hunt involves, making your resume, networking with people, lead coding. So lead coding is something which helps you prepare for technical interviews, which I did not know what it was until third, fourth year, but then I kind of knew about it. I started to practice there. Then recently in 2020, after 2022, ChatGPT got really smart. So you can just talk about it. Be like, hey, I want to do a certain job. This and send it to your resume and be like, can you review my resume? Can you provide feedback? How should I improve it? Then, or you can like give ChatGPT your job description. So the job posting you saw, just give it that and be like, hey, what should I do so I can, get this role? Or how can I improve my resume to get this role? So ChatGPT has been like incredibly helpful in improving certain things I have. Then there's like GitHub, where it's pretty popular among programmers, where you kind of share your code, build projects, save your things. I think of it as Instagram, but for code. So you can admire some codes which are really beautiful, see some really interesting stuff there. So yeah, so the one on the right, like a cat, is GitHub. And then there's Reddit. So Reddit is like a blog or forum where there are different topics. There's almost every single topic you can think of where people post their opinions. So I lived on Reddit, saw what people did. Currently, Reddit has been a lot of fake news and fake stuff, but if you find some niche things, you can get a lot of insights. For example, when you're having an interview and they ask you, tell me about yourself. What are you going to say? So there are questions like that, right? And responses are people who are like far into their career with 20 years of experience who are giving their opinions. Or it's a recruiter who's like, hey, when candidates say this, I like it. So you get these different perspectives and try to make one of your own. So that's mainly what I did. And this is just interviewing, but you can find different things in math, statistics, business, startups, entrepreneurship. A lot of startup founders, they usually post their ideas on Reddit and be like, hey, this is my idea. What do you guys think? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it viable? So it's a good place for people to share a lot of things and get feedback. But of course, you got to be very careful on classifying what's real and what's not real. And on the bottom here, I kind of have my like full-time job journey, right? So as I finished university, I had like six internships, 5 different companies in my resume, which was 5 more than what I had initially in the first year. Um, yeah, I was a little bit more confident because now I had experience in data science and ML. And I wanted to do that. Once I graduate, I wanted to do data science, I wanted to do ML, and I applied to around 300, 400 jobs, maybe even 500. This is just a rough one. Most of them, as you can see, had no interviews, which means like you just get a rejection letter, or sometimes you get nothing at all. Uh, then I got like around 19 interviews. So mainly first round interviews are they just talk you just you talk with a HR person and just explain to yourself why you applied for the role, and that's how they used to filter out people uh, because of their certain whatever they want to hear. And most of them, of course, just end there after one round. And then some of them go to a second round, which is usually more technical. They will ask you a technical question, you have to solve it. Then some of them go 3 rounds, 4 rounds. Some of them go up to like 6 rounds, and you can even get rejected after 6 rounds because doing 6 rounds of interviews, that's around a month, month and a half. I had situations like that where you're talking to this company for like 1.5 months and 6 interviews, which you kind of know good amount of. If it's a smaller company, you kind of talk to everyone, like the CEO, the manager, other software engineers, and then you might just get a rejection right after 1.5 months, which is really kind of upsetting in a sense because you kind of have a commitment with them. And I guess it's important to not commit to anyone because some interviews you can get a job after 1 or 2 rounds. Some of them might get 6 rounds, so you should not commit and not take it really personally. And yeah, so I got like 2 or 3 offers. Um, I think it was three. Two of them were like ML data science related, and one of them was software engineering. Um, so I was like, okay, there's Amazon, which is software engineering, which something I've never done before, and there's some other ones which are smaller companies, but they're data science roles, right? So I think there were many options I could take here, but long story short, I just wanted a bigger name on my resume. So I went with the bigger company, like Amazon. And second of all, uh, I wanted to become a software engineer or generally an engineer and build stuff because I had a lot of theory in this 5 years of I mean, I had experience as well, but a lot of theory. Uh, After 5 years of studying, that I wanted to like apply that or build that because in software engineering, you really take your ideas and start building it. And I really wanted to improve my software skills or coding or programming skills through software engineering. And going with a bigger company like Google, Amazon, the softwares they have is pretty good quality. It's really good quality because they've been functioning for like so many years and they have amazing engineers, a lot to learn from, a lot of good support. And really, like, if you want to find the best place to learn from software engineering, it's bigger companies. Yeah, so I kind of went with Amazon because I wanted to do software, mainly learn, and then also have that name on the resume. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Amazon, but any questions about jobs or finding jobs? All right, we're close to time. I'm gonna be a little bit faster. So, what is Amazon, right? So, most people and myself thought Amazon is this, it's one of the biggest e-commerce websites. They started in 1990s by Jeff Bezos, where they mainly started selling books. They only sold books, and then they also started selling books internationally, and that's how they got started. And then they started selling other items like whatever you might think, and it really developed the idea of online shopping. They were one of the pioneers to do so, and yeah, they still up until this day. That's the bigger part of Amazon, what they do and what they're famous for. But it's huge. So Amazon exists in so many different countries, North America, which includes Canada, US. Then there's South America, like Brazil. There's Japan, maybe China. I think a little bit in China. Um, there's in the Middle East, UAE. Europe is pretty big. Different countries in Europe. So basically, it's everywhere in the world, right? And each country has its own laws in selling, regulations, whatever. So Amazon tries to like do that. That's why they need a lot of engineers to handle that infrastructure and logic to build the software. But it's even bigger because on the right hand side, you will see like this is, I think this image is pretty old, but there are even more businesses. But these are the companies which are under Amazon. So Amazon engineers might also work in these companies. So some of them might. So the second biggest thing which Amazon is known for is AWS, which is for most people it's called the cloud. So if you think about the cloud and which company offers cloud, Amazon is, I think, the number one company, AWS, which offers cloud services to the world. Then the second one is Microsoft Azure, and then there's Oracle, whatever. But the biggest market share which a company has is AWS. A lot of startups and a lot of companies use AWS for their IT infrastructure. And then there are other companies like so at the right side, you have AWS and all their services or all their AWS products. Something which I really find interesting is Twitch. So Twitch is like, live streaming website, which is popular among streamers. It was recently bought by Amazon. Then there is like Prime Music, Prime Video, which is like Netflix, IMDb, which is like a website for everything related to movies. So there's some stores, like in-person stores, like Whole Foods. It's popular in the US and Canada as well. And they have also like, where was it? And the bottom left, logistics. So logistics is pretty huge in Amazon. Them functioning like throughout the country of US and internationally. People who have experience in logistics probably know Amazon, has a lot of trucks and they have a lot of like loads or whatever. So Amazon tries to move everything. And they also have like Prime Air. I think they have the planes and robotics. Robotics is mainly used for they innovate in robotics to help their warehouses. Yeah, so these are some like really popular ones. So the latest one is um, here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but Amazon Project Cooper, which they renamed to Amazon Leo, which is, if you're familiar with Starlink, so so basically they offer satellite internet throughout the world for countries which do not really have internet or when you're traveling. So it's called Amazon Leo. Um, it's the latest product they have and the biggest one. So they're flying rockets, and they're offering like basically Wi-Fi to the whole world. And the last one I want to talk is like Zoox. Zoox is an autonomous vehicle. It's a small subsidiary under Amazon. Basically, they do autonomous vehicles, where driverless vehicles. There are other companies like Waymo and stuff, but Zoox is the Amazon one. So yeah, there are many different businesses inside Amazon. Most of them started within Amazon, and some of them were like acquired by Amazon, like Twitch, Whole Foods, Ring, Fire, um, and yeah. So and then there's also like Amazon Basics, which is like products like simple essentials in the house, which is just made by Amazon. Any questions regarding Amazon? No.
I have a lot of questions I can ask like
All right.
that.
Okay. So yeah, some takeaways. What I want to say is, I'll just be real quick. I would say, do what you love and enjoy. Because one thing I realized is, if you do not enjoy what you're doing after a day or a week or a month, you will get tired of it and you do not want to do it anymore. And for example, let's say a certain role, if I put like months of effort into getting a certain role and I don't enjoy it after a week, like it will be kind of a waste of time and energy, right? So always stick to or be as close as possible to what you really want to do and you enjoy. Second thing, I might be a little bit biased, but study math or in general logic or programming, because most of the things which happen in the world are can be modeled by mathematics, can be, using logic. And also, when you have the logic, you can be really good in programming. So if you're good in logic, some people are not really talented in mathematics, uh, but they can be amazing programmers just because they have like proper logic, or they can be do really good in math. Or I think when you have good logic, you can be a good consultant or a strategist, whatever, right? So having improving your logic, where there are different ways to improve logic, but just focusing on logic is really important. Third thing I'll say is be nosy in a good way. When I first started university, I was always like, yo, what's happening? Like, what's happening? I just stared into things from far away. Um, and I was like, okay, this is happening. But I never actually went into it. But by the time I gained the skill, it was too late, like fourth year, third year of university, where it was a little too late. So because you're going to university, be nosy. You're there to learn. So do everything, of course, like in a respective in a good way. But I don't. What we just so do that in a really efficient and useful manner, because that's how you learn. I believe that, I guess, through co-op experience, I also learned that most of the learnings happen through doing things, even in job, even learning stuff. For example, if you want to become a good programmer, I always tell my people who ask me is like, if you watch 20 hours or 40 hours of programming videos, you will never be able to learn how to code. But if you make a certain like hello world in a certain uh, language, you can learn much more than that, right? So always, you know, be out there. Do not focus on rankings too much. Rankings of universities, I mean, in here. Of course, the higher the ranking, better. But I believe there's like, well, very personal opinion, there's like two rankings. First ranking is, of course, those top 15 universities in the world where it really matters. I'm not gonna lie, like if someone has a top university name, if you have two candidates, one with the top university name and one with a normal or the second tier university, they will most probably go with the first one if they have the same skills. But there's also like, if you're not the first rank, which I say the top 15, the rest are just rank 2 universities. So you can say you studied in rank 2 university in the world, but it doesn't really matter, because I know people who went to not the best universities but had an amazing outcome, and I know people who went to top universities and still are struggling to find jobs. So don't focus too much on the ranking. Focus on, I forgot to add here, but focus on, if you really want to focus on the rankings, focus on the program rankings, not the university rankings. Because Waterloo programming or like computer science engineering rankings are top 20 in the world, for example, which kind of corresponds to their quality. But when it comes to like arts or economics or like business, they're probably not even the top 1,000, for example, right? So really focus on the reputation of the program, not just the university. Uh, last, the almost the last thing is, do not focus on the grades, especially in university. In school, you should, I think, focus on the grades, not a lot, but enough to get into good universities. But also focus on other stuff like extracurriculars. And in this seminar, I did not talk about admission stuff because you probably all know that or can find it easily. But yeah, so unless in university, unless you want to pursue graduate studies like master's or PhD, grades really do not matter. As long as you have average grades, you can do really well. And the last thing is build. So build, it kind of ties with be nosy. When you have a certain idea, don't just keep it as an idea, just build it, like make it. This also ties with the second idea of like studying programming, because if you know how to program, you can build anything you want. Like anything which is technology in the world is written somewhere as a program. So if you have a certain idea or certain task you're doing, you can write a program to automate that or make it faster, or uh, build something. And now, better than probably ever in the history, you can just use AI tools, just do it for them. You just like write your idea and they make it for you. So you don't even need programming, but you need the logic part. That's why I said logic. But you don't need to program anymore. Just build. whether through AI or find a friend who can build it for you, but just build anything because through building you can actually do stuff. Um, I talked for a lot, so now is the QA time. You can answer questions. But before QA, I just wanted to show some pictures of Vancouver. So I moved here around 6, 7 months ago. It's a really beautiful city. It's so on the right side there are mountains, on the left side is the ocean, and the ocean has whales, like a lot big whales. And the right side you have like the mountains. It's amazing. So this is like the skyline, and on the right side, top right, is one of the hikes. Hiking is a very popular thing in Vancouver. A lot of people do it. They are really into lifestyle and fitness, and they just go around and you get to see these amazing things. And at the bottom, it's more about Amazon. So you can see some pictures of the company, from the company. At the bottom left, it's like the view from the office, which looks directly into the mountains. On the right, bottom right, is like my work desk where I spend most of my time at coding or writing. I usually spend 70% writing documentation and like planning and designing rather than coding. But that's just every software engineer these days. And then
Yeah.
this in the middle is a cool building. It's not our office, but it's beside our office. It looks like these games which used to exist in the past where you put different blocks to build houses and the tallest tower wins. So it looks like one of those buildings, and I find it really cool. And then we have this vending machine where if you need anything like, like iPhone charger wires or MacBook chargers, any, non-Apple chargers, keyboards. This is the funniest thing. There's a keyboard vending. As you can see at the bottom, it's just you put in the thing and you just get a keyboard at the bottom. So they're just working in bigger companies. They are really financially well off to provide you the resources you need. So you need anything and they will provide you as long as you do the work, basically. All right. We went a little over time, but I hope it was really helpful. I tried to share a lot about my experience, math, Waterloo, Amazon. So now it's your turn to ask me any questions that I might have missed.
Zafraka, thank you so much. It was inspiring, first of all, and was too much informative.
Yeah.
And thank you first of all to make it up. Because like, it's 7 a.m. in the morning and you're doing it for Uzbek students and for everyone. Okay, I will start with a question because I found it's interesting. Um, the thing is, I am like thinking about is what do you saying that from your Waterloo experience is important to you nowadays? Like, what is the most influential thing you had at Waterloo, which is
Hmm.
still important to you?
Um, I would say community and
Uh-huh.
friends. This is probably the most important thing in your university. So the crowd or people you hang out with. So initially, I started during COVID. Making friends were impossible. I spent 2 years doing online and working online, and that really affected my social side of university, and I did not make the most of it. By the time I started university was third end of second year, so that kind of affected the most important part. But even within like 2.5 years, I got to find a community. And I said, like, initially it was really hard to making friends, but in third, fourth year, I found a crowd who were good for me. Because, when they say if you find four anything, four smart, four inspiring people, you will be the fifth one to become like them, right? So it's very similar. If you join the type of group which you want to be in, so filter out the groups of people who you feel like you want to be like them and just join them and hang out with them. This might be in terms of like career, lifestyle, religion, faith, um, whatever, like academics. Some people would really like people who support it academically. It can be anything, or maybe all of those as well. Some groups are really like uh, what do you call it, multitasking or very diverse, in which there are people who are really good in like spiritual side of things, work, academics, and everything. So I was lucky to find that group a little bit later than expected, but that kind of pushes you to do your best. And I believe that through that support, um, I kind of got most of what I got through university, whether it be studying academically or striving to get better jobs. So community, and mainly from the community, the support you get from it and the inspiration. Because if you see your close friend who came from a little different background being able to do the things you wanted to do, you're like, hey, I can do this as well, right? So that kind of pushes you, and it pushes you with less effort from yourself. You automatically kind of start doing that. So that is like kind of hack as well. So I would say community and friends.
Wow. Okay, nice. Great to hear. And another question about like why you chose the Waterloo and things like that. Um, is it like, is there anything you didn't expect about Waterloo, but that ended up being like very important,
Yeah. Oh,
except the like community and friends?
yeah. So I did not expect co-op to be a thing. So I thought, oh, you're just gonna work and then come back and work. Because I thought internship, if you're an intern and you're working for a company, and also some people also told me this before back when I was in school, which I took it heavily because that's the only source of truth I had. They said like, oh, if you're an intern, all you do is print. They say like, print that paper for me, and you go to the printer, and you bring the paper. Then they like make me a coffee, and you bring them coffee. You're basically like a secretary, right? That's what I kind of thought in that sense, right? Maybe you'll do some Excel, but in co-op, you actually, in most of my jobs, you're treated as an employer. Like you will see people with 10 years of experience telling, hey, Zafar, like do this or help me out with this. Uh, and you get a lot of like confidence because these people are like respecting you. Uh, they're trusting you, even though you're like a first year student, right? So that is something important, which I found out uh, was important. What else? Yeah, basically the community stuff. Can I think of anything else? One thing I realized important is, as I said, like I started getting or diving deeper into universities or higher education in the last year of high school, right? Which is really late. I wish I had not tried, but had some information in like grade 9 or grade 10, or have some mentors. So like getting a mentor, what I found is really important because they give you information, uh, and you kind of have, and with that information you can do much more. So I wish I had that, but unfortunately I did not. I had a lot of support from my family in terms of like, like getting me up there, right, sending me there. But in terms of like something more technical or academic, having that people who've been through that is was hard for me, and I thought it would really improve my university life in a sense. So that's why I really love doing these talks to like, share my ideas, like, because different people have different ideas and different experiences. So
Hmm.
knowing that really helps you to like find yourself. So I think that's the thing. Like start learning more. Goes back to the takeaways. Start being nosy about everything. Don't
Yeah,
just stick to one thing. Um,
that's so true.
yeah, yeah. It's important that you don't stick to one thing because you never know where you might end up.
True.
Also, a little bit longer, but also to add to that, really important is what major you choose when you're applying to university, what major you choose while in university, what classes you take really does not define your career. That's one thing I learned. I had friends who uh, did did it psychology in university. Now they're working for EA. Like if you know, like FIFA, they're working at EA right now as some technical product manager, where they technical product managers are who tell software engineers what to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's can be very different. So don't be like, hey, like, oh, I chose this major. This is me. This is my personality for my whole life. That's never the case. I think it also goes for me because I really wanted to do business. Then I kind of did math in university. Now I'm software engineer. I still don't consider myself a software engineer, but my role says that. So, from business to math to software engineer, it's a very diverse thing. And I would say like always be like open-minded and the things you can do because humans can do anything, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I have more questions, but I'm curious what the audience will ask.
Yeah, feel free to ask any questions like or unmute yourself.
Okay, we
I'm
have a question though. As experience, how you started your undergraduate year and plan to apply for Canadian universities, I'm curious.
Yeah, I would say it's very simply. I just applied. I just Googled apply for Canadian universities, um, and then I just applied. Watched some YouTube videos. Um, Learned the post graduation opportunities from Google. So everything was Google. Google was my friend, um, which was not really helpful because it gives you like really biased information sometimes. Because if for example, if you watch, there are a lot of videos like this, but if you watch a certain video, oh, how I got into Harvard, right? You might think, hey, this is the only way to get into Harvard, but that's not the case. People get into Harvard from many different ways or backgrounds, and that's why, like, for example, like these, that's why I kind of value, in some sense, the uh, like centers which kind of help people study abroad because they deal with a lot of students, they see a lot of cases, they see a lot of experience, and if you have a certain case they might help you out and have a better answer to certain questions rather than just searching Google, right? uh, so I mainly just try to do it by myself because I did not know any other places where I could seek knowledge, but always I would say research by yourself, go to like study centers, talk to people, and just apply. Because at the end of the day, it just comes down to application. And once you apply, uh, there are the essays you have to write, personal statements, whatever. You just do those, which are pretty like common in general application. So I wouldn't say it's anything different. I think there's a second question. Why do you choose Canada over US? Um, so why I chose Canada mainly was postgraduate opportunities, which means what you can do after you graduate. You get an open work permit, which for 3 years, which is a lot of time to find a job or do anything. Or you can choose to do nothing as well, but that's not really helpful. So you get the chance to stay in the country to find a job or do anything else. So that was the first thing. Second thing is I chose Canada because what University of Waterloo was in Canada. So I chose the university, and the university ended up in being in Canada. I really like the university. It, as I said, it's a little bit challenging. It's tough. The social life is not the best, but I do not regret it because the people you meet and stuff like that is like amazing. So I really like the university. I really like the city. There's the con is there's not much to do in the city, but the pro is in a city where not there's not much to do. A lot of founders started their things, and it's like kind of inspiring because uh, there's nothing else to do but build and grind and hustle and do what you want to do. So the city was interesting, and Canada usually is kind of safer than the US. Um, they say Canada is like one of the safest countries. Of course, it's not as safe as Uzbekistan, but compared to the US, it's much more safer. Um, and yeah, these are one of the main reasons.
Any
I
other
think one
question?
thing I can. Sorry, you wanted to say? I wanted to talk a little bit about like graduate school.
No, no,
That's
you're good.
so
We
so
can.
that so I so after graduation from university, you can either take three paths. First path is going to the workforce, getting a job doing that. Second thing is going to grad school. So when I say grad school, it's like master's or PhD. Yes, in some cases you can apply to PhD directly from bachelor's, but it's a little tough. Not all universities offer that, and they expect really high grades. So it's tough but possible. So master or PhD. And the third thing is just do nothing, which is also like fine. Some people just do nothing to, travel or find, discover themselves, whatever. So I chose the first path, and um, I wanted to choose the second path. To be honest, I don't know why I did not do it. I got too much was happening, and I just like, because it takes some time to prepare for graduation. You have to apply, whatever people are doing for bachelors, you kind of do the similar for graduation. You have to do some tests, whatever. I just did not have time because I was in an 8 month internship. Then I came back to university to do my last semester for 4 months. Then I was already like, so I wasn't in the working mindset. So I kind of missed my chance. Uh, but I wanted to do graduate school. So a little bit more about graduate school. So how it works in Canada is generally not, I don't want to be specific, but in generally, there are two types of masters: the research-based masters and course-based masters. Um, Course-based masters is very similar to bachelor's, but it's what, 12 months, 16 months, or 24 months, usually 2 years. And you just come, you just take courses like usual. Just take courses. You don't write a dissertation or a thesis. You just, get that master's degree and leave, right? For some people, that's what they prefer. And most course-based masters, which I mentioned, are paid. So you have to pay tuition. It has a cost, whatever, right? Like bachelor's. But thesis programs or research-based programs, it's also sometimes 16 months, 24 months, usually longer. But there you take courses, but not, you don't take like courses every semester. You'll only take 3 or 4 courses, and then you do research mainly. So by the time you graduate, you have to submit a research paper. And because you're doing this research for the university, the tuition part is usually covered. And I wouldn't say it's a scholarship, but it's a funded, it's basically funded by the university. So it's usually free. And they give you like some stipend, certain amount every month. And that stipend allows you to like, purchase your essentials, like personal things, right? And of course, because they're giving you a stipend, you have to do TA-ship. TA-ship is basically like teacher's assistant, where you just work in the university and help your professor. So these are two things. So if you're considering masters and you get into a research program, most of the research programs are in top universities, so you have a higher chance of getting the visa. And secondly, it's fully funded or partially funded, so it'll basically be free.
Yeah. Okay, we got one more question.
Yes, sir. For an applicant who does not have prior Canadian experience, what are the most critical factors? I guess depends. Canadian experience, I guess it means in a general sense, people who don't have Canadian experience. Uh, I would say Canada has the most critical factors. It's just like any other country. It's very similar to the US. Um, in terms of economy, it's very similar. It's much smaller in size, but kind of similar. Um, the immigration is pretty hard, and it's getting harder. Coming to Canada is becoming harder. It's not impossible, but it's much harder. Obtaining a study visa, obtaining a work visa is much harder. And even people who graduated, getting that uh, open work permit, it's more restrictive now. It's mainly restricted to accredited universities. So if you just come to like a community college in Canada, there's a chance you might not get an open work permit. So there's a list in the Canadian immigration website of the universities which are provided the postgraduate work permit or the visa. So that's something to consider. Like if you want to come, it's really good to come to one of accredited universities. And secondly, another personal opinion, I think it's very worth it to come to Canada if you're coming as a student, because you're pretty new, you're very young to like develop the skills, and you can easily like how do you say, like no matter you can try something else like always because you're pretty young. But when you're older, you might have a family, might have responsibilities, and it might be much harder.
Yeah, hearing all of this and like all of these insights I got from the webinar, I have like one thing. Looking back, what were like the key decision that led you where you are now, like Amazon, graduated, studied math at Waterloo.
Um, Being locked in. So locked in is locked in is
Yeah,
if you're not
okay.
familiar, it's a common term. Um, it's a common term
A month.
used these days, where in a sense it means being focused. Because coming into Canada, coming into Canadian universities in the West, uh, there's a lot of distractions. Some might be not very helpful distractions, some might be useful distractions. Uh, but you have to like filter a lot every single day and put active effort into filtering the things around you to be locked in. Like you can imagine if you're like shooting a bow and an archer, right? Like you see a certain point and you just try really hard to aim and be accurate at that point. But when you shoot, of course, you might not get exactly to that point, but at least you tried, right? So, and then you can, take the second bow and start shooting again. You'll get more experience. So
Yeah,
having a certain thing you want to do and just being locked in and like laser focused in doing that is really helped me. I wouldn't say I was locked in for 5 years, but uh, I tried my best to lock myself in because I came all over across the world to this university. I have to always remember the purpose. Why did I come here? Why are people supporting me? It's a lot of responsibility, uh, and you have to like get some value out of it, right? So I was like, okay, I came here, I have to do something. Like it would be a waste if I spend my time doing nothing because I could do nothing, right? As well, like just every summer I could choose a non-co program. Every summer go back to Uzbekistan, chill with friends and all. But I mainly stayed in Canada, locked in, work, study, work, study, work, study. But the good thing is because I worked, I could afford to like buy the tickets to travel back to Uzbekistan. So that also helped because locking in does come with benefits. So I was locked in, getting better jobs every time, increasing the salary I was getting. Then I could, for example, I traveled to the US a few times, funded myself going back to Uzbekistan. Tickets are really expensive across if you're flying to North America. So getting those tickets, uh, yeah, whatever you want to do, locked in really helped me.
yeah, awesome.
So I would recommend everyone to lock in and keep on
Walking
grinding.
every day for 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours. No, I would say like at least 9 to 10 hours. Like if you're a person who works, go back home, lock in, do something on the side. If you're applying to universities, apply to universities, then go still do your extracurriculars. And yeah, always lock in.
Awesome, awesome to hear. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. Okay, I will ask my last one
Yeah,
question.
no worries.
We
Feel
can
free.
end up the webinar. So I know the Amazon culture, like I compare with other cultures too. And like, what do you think? How is the Amazon culture compared? What do you like experience before in other companies? Like you did startup. I know that the startup is grind mode.
Yeah.
You did a bank, you did insurance company. Like, how is it in Amazon now?
Yeah. So it's very different. So before, when I was in the bank, it's a financial sector. Uh, even though I was a data scientist, I don't know if it's helpful, but culturally, if you're working in a bank, you usually wear something formal, semi-formal. Wear like a shirt or at least a polo, come to work. And in the banking sector, everything is, in technical terms, they call it legacy infrastructure. So the code and everything is really old, but it works, and it's really hard to change them. So doing a certain programming or software developing is really hard because most things are old, and it's very, very, very slow um, to innovate or do something new. So this is particularly in the banking sector, right? Because and it's also the most sensitive sector. It, deals with money, and you don't want to risk your customers to do that. So because customers have a lot of trust in banks, that's the general culture there. So I'm talking mainly about the software engineering or tech culture, right? And yeah, startups are very different because startups can be a different size. Some of them are larger, 100, 200 people. Where I worked, there were 8 people. From the 8 people, there were 5 engineers. So building a product, which is, yeah, uh, everything's new. Everything's new. So that time I was learning I would see a certain post. So when you're learning something to build a product, you usually see something which is tested, which has been around in the market for 2, 3 years and it works. But you're in a startup, you're trying to like make your product work. There might be a certain comment by certain professor saying, that's a good idea. And you're like, okay, let's implement that. Let's implement that. You're not confident that it will work. Most probably it doesn't work, but it's a risk to try because you want to get that funding, you want to do that grind. uh, you're you're building your product, but at the same time you're researching. So that's what I learned in the startup culture. Amazon Amazon is a little bit of everything because it's huge. Like Amazon scale is huge. um, so in terms of infrastructure, they're huge, and because the company is so big, the culture strongly depends on the team you have. So Amazon has different. Let's talk about just the retail website, the e-commerce website, right? There's like payments there. There's the products you see there. There's the search tool. So every single thing you can touch in Amazon is a team, basically, right? And each team depends. For example, if you're like working on what products to put on Amazon, it's a little bit more lenient because you can like test different things. So you're trying to be innovative, right? But if you're in payments, which deals with like credit cards, debit cards, which process those payments, again, it ties a little bit more into like banking because it's very sensitive. There's no room for risk there, and yeah, things are much slower. There's little room for innovation in terms of innovation, right? But in terms of general working, Amazon is, if you're in the tech scene, Amazon is known for being more hard on their workers. That's true. It's a little bit different than other tech companies, but I feel like you can find the right balance if you're in the right team, if if you know your priorities straight. It's like it's doable. It's not too bad. Like you can find time to do anything you want to do. Of course, there's a little bit more pressure because again, it's a bigger company. Millions of people use it. Uh, Billions of dollars flow into Amazon every single day. And this is Amazon, but there's like AWS. So AWS, the Amazon culture comes mainly from AWS
Yeah.
because AWS, as I said, it's a cloud provider, and the clients of AWS are the biggest companies you might know, like Salesforce or like I don't know, like certain companies. So like 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was an AWS outage where something did not work, only in the North America part, and like there were like billions of dollars lost, right? Because certain like like a problem happened in AWS. So there's a lot more pressure in the AWS business compared to Amazon, just because it's very important. You businesses like whole other companies which are as big depend on you. For example, Netflix, for example, I don't know if they use Amazon, but they use like a cloud provider to store their
Movies.
movies, to access those movies, right? So if Amazon is down or a cloud provider is down, Netflix just stops working, and they're like they might cancel their contract with you, which is like probably billions of dollars. So because of the importance of AWS is um, more strict, more pressure, more. It's one of the principles, like insisting on the highest standard. You got to make sure everything is in the highest standard. And when you're writing code, know that this code is like, or a logic is not called one time or two time or 100 times. It's called like millions of times per second, right? a person in Japan might be calling it, or a person in maybe calling it is a very technical term, but let's say you're checking out, the checkout button is used by like Japan and North America. So if the checkout button gets broken, you're done. Like people cannot check out, and millions and billions of dollars might be lost, depending on how long it was out for. So because of that importance, there's a pressure on having the highest standards, having good quality work, and yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions from the audience? If there will be no questions, yeah, we can end up the meeting now.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. Just
just-
before ending, I just want to say, like, if anyone has a question, a personal question, or people who are watching the video, feel free to uh, message me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I can answer. It will be easier for me with any questions regarding Waterloo, Canada, Amazon, any other companies. Just feel free to reach out with any questions you might have on LinkedIn. My name should be the same.
Tafaraka, thank you so much. Yeah,
You as
thank you
well.
so much. This was so informative and so inspirational. Going from like starting from Uzbekistan straight to Canada, Amazon, US, startup, all of this was very informative and useful. I believe it's useful for audience and for students who will watch this video. It will be on our YouTube channel forever. So I hope one day in 10 years maybe we will hear the name Zafar Ekimboev in Forbes. Yep,
Thank you.
yeah. And I wish all of the best, Zafar,
Thank you so much.
in your Amazon career, maybe in your next startup career. If you will need anything from on our end, we're free and we're always one call away from you. Thank you so much, Aparaka. We do appreciate your time, and I know it's early morning in Canada. Yeah, it's not dark now.
It's light now. It's light now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aparaka. We can end up
All
the webinar now, and it will be posted on our YouTube channel.
right. Thank you so much. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for asking questions, everyone. And have a great day.
You too.